In this episode, we are going to review the Ventura from Designs, a microphone preamp, EQ, and direct recording input. And this is my first review of something from Designs, and I'll tell you why I'm finally getting around to doing that now. So welcome to Ronan's recording show at Recording Bootcamp. I am Ronan Chris Murphy, and we are digging into the Ventura. And as I said in the intro, this is my first time doing a review of really anything from Designs. Why haven't I done that yet? Well, anybody who's hung out and talked gear with me or been to my studio knows that I'm a huge fan of Designs. In particular, the Pacifica, this mic pre down here. So much of what I record ends up going through this microphone preamp. They're based on Quad 8 designs, which to me is the perfect sweet spot of clean and detailed and colored and big and powerful. So I've started using these all the time many years ago. And over the years, I've actually become very good friends with the people at Designs and actually gone so far to help them out with some beta testing and things like that and helping them talk about their gear at shows. So I've never really covered their gear despite the fact that I use Designs stuff more than virtually any other company's gear, just because they've become friends and I do the beta testing. I never wanted Ronan's recording show to be this thing where I'm just sort of pimping for my friends or showing off things that I'm affiliated with. So I've sort of just let my professional work speak for itself. But why am I getting around to reviewing some of their stuff now? Well, two reasons. One is it's just cool and it's finally time you learn about it. But also here in the United States, in November, I think it's like the 10th anniversary or something of the Pacifica. So this microphone preamp and this fairly new Ventura, all the dealers around the United States are doing this big $400 discount, and it has brought both of these down into a price point where it's kind of a no-brainer. So I just wanted some people to know about these preamps, what's cool about them, what I like about them, maybe a few things I don't, during this month while so many retailers around the country are doing the massive discount. So I'm not going to talk much about the Pacifica. It's been out for a long time. People know about it. It still is the mic pre I've probably used more than any mic preamp in my entire life. Why is the Ventura kind of something different, and why do I say this is a really good tool for somebody just starting to expand their hardware collection? Is because in a sense, this is almost like getting 3 boxes in one. And let me explain real briefly. The gain over here is a microphone preamp. Nothing too exotic except for great sound. So you just have, gain, pad, phase or polarity switch, and phantom power, like you'd see on almost anything. What's cool about it is the sound of it. If you're familiar with the Pacifica or if you're familiar with older Quad 8 style designs, it kind of has that vibe and flavor, but it is really articulate. I mean, that's the thing to me that's most exciting about it, is the amount of detail that you get. And but at the same time also has a little bit of roundness and musicality. Again, sorry to use those kind of terms talking about mic preamps, but the more you use them, the more you start talking in those kind of flowery subjective terms about things. And what I love about it, as I said before, it's kind of that sweet spot of really detailed and articulate and warm, round, and musical. So it's like the Pacifica, but a bit more detailed. And what I love about these style preamps is that they're so flexible. You never have to worry about, is this the right kind of mic preamp for this style of music? So whether we're shifting from classical chamber music to extreme metal, great mic preamps work really well. And no matter what kind of tradition you come from in terms of your favorite mic preamps, if you get a chance, I strongly recommend you actually set these up head to head and do some blind comparisons. Comparing this to something like a Millennia or a Grace, very detailed, very popular with the classical crowd, you might be quite surprised about what you hear and how they stack up together. And then I'd say the same thing too. If you're used to things like API or Neve or something, set one of these up against those, level match them, listen blind so you don't know which is which, And again, I think there's a very good chance that you will be pretty surprised by the results you get and how favorably these compare against those very different styles of mic preamps. What makes this really interesting and unique over here is this section, the instrument input. And what a lot of microphone preamps have is they've got that 1/4 inch high impedance input on the front, basically put a little buffer stage there before it goes and hits the mic preamp. What is different and unique about this one is this is a completely discrete amplifier optimized for instrument inputs. So yeah, this isn't just a little buffer before you hit the microphone preamp. This is actually a preamplifier designed specifically for the job of boosting level for guitar inputs, bass inputs, keyboard inputs, things like that, those high impedance sources. And the result of this is that it is the cleanest, most articulate direct recording input source I've ever used, and I've used a lot. So if you want that really detailed clarity, all of the articulation from the instrument in your performance, this is as clean and articulate as anything I've ever used. If you're familiar with like A-Design's other direct input source, the Ready, and think it might have some similarities to this, not at all. They are completely different beasts, completely opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of sound and vibe. And also the Ready won't give you all the gain that you're going to get out of this. So as much as I love this, this is my one negative I'm going to say about this, and or just wish list. As a guy who really enjoys taking clean direct sources, but also either running out to amplifiers or running out to different guitar pedals, or maybe even combining direct sources, like maybe using like a super clean articulate input like this, and then going out to something like the Ready that's big, rounder, and more colored. It'd be really nice if there was a throughput here like that you have on most DI boxes. Truth is, if you're using two DI sources, not the end of the world. Like if I wanted to use the Ready or something else, DI box, they usually have throughputs that I could go into here. But if I'm going out to an amp or some other direct input source that doesn't have this, I've got to start using splitters or things like that. And anytime you start adding those things, you run the risk of losing a little bit of what's so awesome about this input source. The last section here is an EQ section. Again, taking some of the Quad 8 style designs and building on that. And what we end up here is just a really good, smooth musical EQ that I find to be super flexible. Like a lot of the older EQ designs, you've got things here in steps, you know, like API, Neve, things like that. So you have a slightly limited range of frequency selectors. You'll notice this will go from 0.95 to 1.2. This will go from 125 hertz to 180 to 200. I find these to be really well chosen frequency points. But if you're used to like working in the DAW or like a Massenburg EQ where you can get the exact frequency you want, you're not going to get that out of this, but you rarely are going to miss it. Same thing here with the dB boost. It's going to be in 2 dB steps, so you can't do a nice little subtle 0.3 dB booster cut. But the fun thing about hardware is you rarely miss that. I find with plugins, I end up being much more tweaky and finding specific sweet spots where great hardware like this one or great stuff from Neve and API, you end up not really missing it that much because they often just sound so good almost no matter where you put them, and you can get away with a lot more. One last thing here that makes this a really interesting option and why I say this is a cool thing for when you're just starting to expand your gear collection is that with the routing options you have in the back, you can actually run the amplifier section and the EQ section independently of each other. So you've got insert points here. So for instance, you could be, if you're tracking, you could be using, say, a microphone to record an electric guitar, but maybe you're using a different mic preamp. You have API mic preamp that you love for the vocal, but you want to EQ the vocal with this EQ. You can actually track with those at the same time. So be using the amplifier section of this on one instrument and using the EQ on another instrument with a completely different microphone preamp. And how we often have this set up here at the studio is a lot of times I don't do a lot of EQing while I track. And so how we'll sometimes just keep this set up is actually keep this where we have a mic pre that can go straight into the DAW. And then we with separate inputs and outputs on the back will actually have this set up on a analog loop from Pro Tools, allowing me to just pull up that analog insert and put this EQ on anything I want in my Pro Tools session. And that's a really, really cool way to do it. And but honestly, one of the things I'm starting to get more and more into is actually using this microphone preamp and this EQ while we track, and then hitting our LA2A, a nice warm round compressor. And we found that to be a pretty magical combo on a lot of different things. So I'm going to run you through this, show you some audio examples. Always more fun when we get to hear this stuff. Make sure you're watching this on the highest video option available, because that not only improves the video, but also the sound. So let's check out some audio. So it can take you a lifetime to really get to know any of your EQs on different styles of music and how hard you push them and things like that. But I'll just give you a quick rundown on a couple sources so you can hear this. And what we're going to do is we're going to run half of a mix. This is only a mono unit. So what I've got is I've just taken one side, the left side of a mix. And what we're going to play around with is this. This is a new record from Kelly Bradley, Milestones, and Diego and I just finished this a few months ago and we're really proud of it, so we're going to show it off a little bit. But so what I'm going to do is just show you, this is the unmastered mix, and I decided I wanted to just try something radical. And sometimes with the really smooth sounding hardware EQs, you can actually do all sorts of boosting and you almost don't even feel like it's happening because they're so smooth. And that's really going to be accentuated in terms of smoothness by selecting nice wide cues. And by the way, on this EQ, you have your options of selecting the cue. That's how wide your cut or boost are going to be. So you've got this sharp, wide, and narrow. And the narrow is going to be really, really narrow. And the sharp, a little less out, and wide, nice and big. And this is not only with this unit, but anytime you're working with EQ, if you set the cues nice and wide, they're always going to be smoother, more musical, and natural sounding. So what I'm going to do, since it's sometimes hard to hear boost, is I'm just going to play this with some radical EQing in right there. This is 6 dB at 12, okay? 6 dB, and also 6 dB at 63 hertz. And we're going to let you listen to that, and then I'm going to turn it off. I think you probably heard that. Let's go ahead and do that again. Of course, 6 dB at 12K is way more than I would almost ever do on a mastering type situation, but I just wanted to show you that pushed out to the extremes. Let's actually pull that back to something that's a little more similar to what we might actually do in a mastering type situation or a two-bus type situation. And again, we'll do the same thing, start with it, and then I'll flip it back in and out. So that's one of the things that you can do. Again, this unit, but also great hardware and even the best of the plug-in world, allowing you to do these big tweaks that still sound smooth, like it just went to be a brighter mix rather than got weird and harsh and edgy. So real quick, we'll just grab the kick drum from, actually I think it's the same song, and let's check it out flat. So I'm pretty happy with that kick drum sound just to start. We had a great drummer on the record. And truth is, what I would probably do with that is use something like a transient designer to tighten that up just a little bit before I EQ'd it. But you know, if we wanted this to be a little bit more modern pop sounding, a couple things we often like to do is do a little boost around 4K. This doesn't have 4K. It's got 3.8 to 4.7. So let's go ahead and try 4.7. And let's go ahead and let's be radical on this. Let's do 6 dB. And we'll do a little, we got down here at 63 Hertz. We'll go ahead and do a little bit of bump there. And I might try even pulling out a little around 500. We don't have that, but we do have 470. So this is gonna give us what's probably gonna be a more, kind of modern rock sounding kick drum when we pull it in and out. So I'll start with it out. Notice we're able to bring up a lot of the smack, a lot of the bigness and the boomies. Let's actually even go nuts. This is way more than I would do, but so this is gonna be a little nuts, but we're gonna do, if we wanted ultra modern rock, more like to be in a hard rock or metal band, a big boost around 4 or 5K. And let's see how forward we can get that without making the kick drum sound completely stupid. So nice radical transformation in there. Again, bringing it from a more sort of mellow adult alternative, which is really what suits this record, to a more aggressive modern rock. Let's actually even scoop out some mids a little bit more so we can really, let's turn this into a nice adult contemporary record into, something like Korn would have on a record. Pretty dramatic, and the great thing again about this and great hardware, still very smooth, doing radical amounts of EQ. So this is Kelly playing guitar. Again, she's got a nice guitar. We used A Designs Pacificas. Basically on that record, most of what you hear is the A Designs Pacifica and a little bit of, not the Ventura, because I actually don't own this, but I do own the old early prototype of the 3001. But let's see what this sounds like just straight and raw. Yeah, really nice. I think that was probably a Perlman TM1 into an A Designs Pacifica. I'm not the only one using that combo. There's a lot of people who love that exact combo. But if we wanted this to feel a little bit more like a, pop type acoustic guitar sound, which is going to be a little thinned out in the middle, a little less honky, and a little bit more shimmer on top. Let's see what options. First thing I want to do is hunt around and find out where the mids are the most sort of boxy and pull those out. So let's try that. I didn't explain it, but you probably figured it out already. The black knob in the middle is our booster cut, and the red knob on the outside is where we select our frequencies. Yeah, just cleaned it up nicely where it'd sit inside of a band. But if we want this to jump out, let's try and bring up, again, I'd usually go for something around 8K to bring up some of the pick attack and the sparkle around an acoustic. We don't have that. We have 7.5 to 9.5. I'm good with that. Again, hardware EQs are a little more forgiving about getting the exact frequency choice. And let's try and pop that in now. So we'll start, going to do a 4 dB boost and put the EQ in and out, starting with it out. So right about where I would want that. But just so we can have fun being stupid, because that's the fun of good hardware, is we can be stupid with lower consequences. Let's do just a crazy amount of boost here, all the way out, completely maxed out. We'll start with it in and then turn it off. And actually I think we'll pull out a little bit of this rumble from the low end, because we're not gonna need that on acoustic guitar. So around 50 hertz, we're just gonna pull that out a couple dB. And we'll start with it in and then hear it out. So I think that probably, even if you're listening on your laptop, probably makes it pretty obvious. Again, this is generally more than I would do on an acoustic guitar, but that's what I love about this EQ and other great hardware units, is they let us get away with doing such stupid stuff without coming back and biting us in the ass like our lesser EQs will often do. So we're just gonna run through a bunch of different instruments real quick so you can hear how the microphone preamp pairs with a mic. We've got the Shure KSM32, a mic a lot of people know I like a lot, but it's not an expensive or esoteric microphone. And so you'll hear me, I will save you listening to me sing. So here's a nice reed shaker. Some little bells so you can hear some high frequencies. So just to wrap this up, if you're looking to expand your hardware collection, whether this is like one of your first outboard boxes, or obviously I have no shortage of outboard toys, this is a really cool option because you get an awesome microphone preamp, you get a great direct input source that is optimized for instrument level inputs. Again, I wish it had a throughput, but that's a pretty rare thing on a mic pre, so I can't really bitch about that. And we have a fantastic, flexible, and very musical EQ section. And again, I hate to sound like a sales guy because I have no vested interest whether you buy 0 or 1 million of these. If you're in the United States, here in November of 2014, I think all the retailers that carry this around the country are doing these like $400 off. And that's why I've taken the initiative to go ahead and pimp products that I am very close to, because it's a really great thing and actually a really good time to buy. All right, that is it. Check it out. And again, if you get a chance, get your hands on these, demo it yourself, get your own opinion, but I think you will be pretty impressed. That is it. I'm out of here. Have fun and stay focused on the music.